Spacehunter in the Forbidden Zone, a film requested by a viewer and one I have vague recollections of viewing several times on TV as a kid. A 1983 American space western being a weird sort of cross between Mad Max, Star Wars and one of the more gnarly episodes of Doctor Who. Is it a hidden gem or does it deserve that 23% Rotten Tomatoes score? Well, let's take a look and find out. Having re-watched this for the purposes of this video, I can safely say it is a little bit of a mixed bag. There's some things to really commend and some aspects that are really pretty dire. Let's get into the bad aspects first. The first of which you are going to notice pretty much straight away in the opening credits, and that is this was obviously filmed and released with 3D in mind. In the early 80s, following the surprise success of Coming At Ya, a little remembered Spanish-American western released in 1981, a 3D boom was started in Hollywood, with such great films as Jaws 3D being a result of that. Anyone who has seen Jaws 3D will attest to just how obnoxious the effects for the 3D were, normally just being stuff thrown directly at the audience. This makes watching the film in 2D feel a little strange, I've got to admit, with a lot of sparks and laser bolts etc showering the screen to boost that 3D-ness. However, the credits are the worst of it, with the rest of the film I would assume being fairly flat and conventional in the over-under polarized 3D of the 80s. Although those opening credits do make sense when you consider this was advertised as the first movie that puts you into outer space, or more likely induces a nosebleed level of migraine before the first scene has rolled. The second thing you'll largely notice about this are the characters, who are all fairly unlikable and unrelatable. Peter Strauss is Wolf, a down-on-his-luck scrapper/bounty hunter, who I assume was written to be like Han Solo to cash in on the Star Wars craze of the 80s, because why cash in on one craze when you can double or even triple your odds of success, or failure as the case may be. Instead of Han Solo, we get a muddled character who is on one hand clearly dressed and meant to be a gruff, rough and tough space cowboy, but on the other is also meant to be kind and caring to his co-star and partner in crime, Nikki, played by a 15-year-old Molly Ringwald, whose age will become really important later. Now, I don't know what it is about early to mid 80s adventure films that felt like they needed to shoehorn in an annoying teen character who is clearly not a child and should be able to at least take a bath on their own, but are portrayed like 4-year-olds who can't bathe themselves, all whilst being weirdly adultized. Because that's exactly Ringwald's character here. She's very reminiscent of Short Round in Indiana Jones, except a girl and older a bit. Ernie Hudson is also in this allegedly, chosen because he looked a little bit like Lando Calrissian. Now, not to get all woke or anything, but whoever decided Ernie Hudson looked anything like Billy D. Williams is either a Klan member or blind. He plays the Lando to Wolf's Han, as you were, being a person he used to be friends with, but had some prior falling out, and due to circumstances they now have to work together. Except just like Wolf, he comes across as more annoying than charming and swashbuckling. To round out our cast, we have Michael Ironside as the protagonist, Overdog. He looks cool and he's creepy as all hell, plus he's Michael Goddamned Ironside hamming it up as a baddie. Only problem is, he doesn't appear until 47 minutes into this 126 minute long film, which brings me neatly to my next and last bone of contention. The tone and narrative are all over the place. Some of the content is very suggestive of wanting to aim at an R-rated crowd, whilst 80 or 90% of the film is a family-friendly space adventure. It's really muddled, and this spills over into the narrative, which isn't bad by any means. It's a simple tale told fairly competently. 3 beautiful females are kidnapped in a hostile environment, and our plucky band of adventurers have to go rescue them. The one issue I have with the plot is you are never given any reason to actually care about the 3 female captives, beyond they are 3 human females. Where it feels really muddled are the hints of rape, including a scene where Ironside's Borg look-alike baddie demands one of the female captives is stripped of her clothes, then demands she strips slower, all whilst making sexual groans, plus the various suggestions throughout that it wouldn't be an awful idea to do the horizontal mambo with 15-year-old Molly Ringwald. That is until it is revealed that no, Overdog isn't into the women sexually, he wants to use their life force to sustain him. These scenes are surrounded by a family-friendly space adventure with comedic elements. It's really jarring. Watching the film, I was thinking to myself, I bet this had our old friend studio-mandated rewrites, hence the weirdly disparate tones and oddly muddled narrative, which turns out I was spot on. Originally, the director was John LaFleur, who had also co-written the screenplay, but Columbia weren't happy with his progress on the film and fired him after only 7 days, replacing him with Lamont Johnson. In Ernie Hudson's words, "We changed the script entirely. When Lamont came in, we got a new script, a new everything. I ended up really liking Lamont, but it was very confusing, especially in the beginning, with Molly Ringwald adding, there was a train which started out as evil and wound up being good. People who were supposed to be friends ended up being enemies. It was confusing." So yeah, it's no real wonder the narrative and tone feel so confused. Moving on to the good things, as I said, I enjoyed the narrative for the most part. It was just the weird changes in tone that I found jarring. It skips along at a fair click, and no scene ever outlasts its welcome. I wasn't ever bored, in other words, there's always something going on. There are some decent set-piece action scenes, some of which weirdly reminded me of the Goonies, especially the weird pirate ship train contraption in the opening action scene. The overall vibe though is obviously Mad Max. It's Mad Max in space, with weird post-apocalyptic vehicles and motorbikes up the wazoo, which I'm always down for. I think post-apocalyptic Mad Max vibes are my favourite of all the ones you can go for. This is really helped by the use of location, large-scale sets, miniatures, models and composite shots all blended together to actually create a pretty believable looking Planet of Terror 11. It looks lived in. The use of practical effects and an absolute fuck ton of fireworks and explosives for the action scenes also really add to that. Even now in 2022, the film looks great, in fact much better than a lot of modern sci-fi does, which looks way too clean and pristine for me. I really did love the premise and world they wanted to build here. It's a real shame the execution didn't quite match, with this film's starting life being a two-time cynical Hollywood cash-in of both Star Wars and the 3D craze. It's unsurprising that what we got was less than stellar, but what we did get is enjoyable enough that I would recommend you give it a watch if you like sci-fi space adventures. It's also bad enough that it probably justifies that 23% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. So that was Spacehunter Adventures in the Forbidden Zone, kindly requested by a viewer, and if you want to request a video, let me know in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe. Next week is another viewer request, this time it's Trick or Treat, the 80s rock horror, not the noughties anthology horror of the same name.